My name is Amanda, and I'm here to do my persuasive speech for public speaking. I'll apologize in advance if a child comes in while I'm doing this speech. Thank you. Imagine watching a person you love slowly dwindling away because of something that they could no longer control. Something that originally started as picking up a cigarette, picking up a drug, picking up a drink, or any other thing that can become a vice. The topic in question today is addiction. Addiction is important to me because I am a recovering alcoholic with 10 years of sobriety. Today we will discuss the definition of addiction, the definition of disease, and why you should believe that addiction is a disease and not merely a choice. Let's first define addiction. The American Society of Addiction Medicine defines addiction as being characterized by the inability to consistently abstain, impairment in behavioral control, cravings, diminished recognition of significant problems with one's behaviors and interpersonal relationships, and a dysfunctional emotional response. Like other chronic diseases, addiction often involves cycles of relapse and remission. Things that you could be addicted to include alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, and other tobacco products, pornography, food, and even technology, like the cell phone that I have in my hand to record this video. Now that we have looked at the definition of addiction, let's define disease. Merriam-Webster Dictionary Online at merriam-webster.com defines disease as a condition of the living animal or plant body or one of its parts that impairs normal functioning and is typically manifested by distinguishing signs and symptoms. Now that we have defined addiction and disease, let's talk about why addiction is a disease. The opposing view would have you think that it is not a disease. Dr. Mark Lewis was interviewed by Caroline McGraw in 2017 on a website called The Clearing. The article was titled "Why Addiction is Not a Disease: An Interview with Dr. Mark Lewis." The article tells us this: addiction is an unintended consequence of the brain doing what it's supposed to, seek pleasure and relief in a world that's not cooperating. Brains are designed to restructure themselves with normal learning and development. Now let's revisit our definitions. Our definition of a disease talks about how a disease interrupts basic functions. For example, someone with an addiction to technology, like an 11-year-old boy, for example, if the technology is taken away from him, he could react in throwing fits, getting violent, being verbally and physically abusive, all things that not only impact his daily function, but also impact his relationships, which ties into the definition we discussed earlier about addiction. An addict who cannot get through the day without a drug or a drink also has impaired functions. Tonight we have discussed the definition of addiction, the definition of disease, and why addiction is in fact a disease. I hope that with my definitions that I have discussed, as well as the example I discussed, that you might think a little more about addiction as a disease instead of a choice. Thank you.